Hey, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Lenders Gone Wild podcast. I'm joined today by Ben Andrus. Ben, welcome to the show.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
Lenders Gone Wild is going to be a podcast where people inside the mortgage and real estate industry have a chance to come just tell stories, tell their story. And in the nature of real estate, you run across some really crazy and wild things. So the wild part of it is simply those stories that maybe don't get shared very often, right? There's a lot of privacy around our business, but if we can frame it in the right way, we can share some pretty funny stuff that you only really appreciate if you do this job. So a really special guest to have Ben start this podcast with me. Ben actually introduced me to the mortgage business back 11 years ago.
I'm sorry.
11 years ago. He actually told me, like sat me down and said, like, if you can do anything else with your life, you might want to think about it. Remember that combo?
It's a true story.
So what do you mean by that, right? Is it's a lot. This job's a lot of work. It's a lot of hours. It's a lot of balancing your family. There's not really an off switch. So again, in that, you get to really bump into all types of people and all sorts of stories because you're really integrated deeply into their lives, helping them make the biggest purchase and sometimes the most wealth creating and most stressful transaction of their lives. And as a result, you get to learn things that maybe are, a little bit wild and interesting. So we'll talk more about that, but I want to start with just hearing from Ben a little bit. So tell me just a little bit, tell the guests and the viewers a little bit about your story and about your journey into and through the mortgage business and kind of where you're at today and what's got you excited about 2025.
Yeah, so it started in real estate, actually, new home sales about 18 years ago, and did that for 3 or 4 years, and then moved from that point in time right after the big crash that we all talk about in 2008, moved from that point in time into lending. I hooked up with my, at the time in the new home sales area, you're going to have your preferred lender, your in-house lender.
Yep.
And then you have the lender that gets all like the deals done behind closed doors, and they know how to get stuff done.
The turn down guy.
The turn down guy. Yeah. So I called my turn down guy. I'll leave his name out of this for now, but I love him. I actually just ran into him the other day. He's still hustling. I called my turn down guy and I'm like, dude, I'm done with this new home sales stuff. Would you ever hire me as a lender? And he was like, heck yeah, come on over. I'm like, all right, well, I don't know anything about loans. And he said, it doesn't matter. If you can sell stuff, you'll be all right. We'll teach you.
Yeah.
So that's how I got started. And that was back in 2009.
Wow.
So,
well, and then grew, right? And had some opportunities come your way early on, and then enter me. What was that, 2014?
Yep.
Right? Growing the team over PRMI back in those days.
Yeah. I mean, the industry was so booming, was booming so well back then. I mean, the goal was really trying to create, it wasn't how do I find more deals?
Right.
The goal was like, how do I do a good job taking good care of people?
The best process.
Yeah, the process.
Yeah.
How do I maintain the business? How do I do a good job executing at a high level?
Sure.
That was the goal. And that was, of course, why, we were really good friends at the time.
Yep.
Brewing beer, Bible studies, like all the things. Our lives were intertwined.
Yeah.
And I just always remember thinking, man, Matt would be a great addition to the team just in terms of building systems and processes and helping us take it to the next level, making sure people are well taken care of.
Yeah.
But I also felt for you, like when you said that about if there's anything else that you can do with your life, you may want to consider doing that. It's kind of true because I knew getting into it, it's just such a racket.
Well, I was coming from teaching too, right? So like it's a hard left turn.
Yeah, not that teaching's easy, but it's just it's very different.
Yep.
And yeah, so I kind of in a way I was like, man, I hope he doesn't get into this. Yeah. But at the same time, I was hopeful that you would because I knew it'd be a fun adventure to embark on together.
Yeah, we had a great time. There's a lot of fun stuff. So tell me, like, Go West, right? So tell me about kind of the last few years and the move to Go West and what has you excited about being in that space and this latest evolution in your career?
Yeah, that's kind of you to open that up to chat about on this podcast. I've spent, as you know, 15 years or so in the retail industry. Retail mortgage. And I just felt like the next step for me was ownership, and the next step was moving into the broker space.
Yeah.
Even retail shops now that exist are offering broker channels,
Right.
because it's just become such an important part of the industry.
Sure has.
Flexibility, in a variety of different ways. Flexibility, being able to offer the right products at the right price, the right interest rates, all that stuff. Borrowers want what they want. And when you're held captive at whatever bank that you happen to work at, and you can only offer their products and only offer their rates, you're operating a lot of times with a hand tied behind your back. And so for me, I was at that crossroads, and I just felt like, you know what, I'm either going to go work at a broker or I'm going to go start a broker shop. And I just felt like for me, it was the right choice to start Go West. And
I love it.
It's been a year and a half now, coming up on 2 years. A year and a half. And it's been good. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's good. What does, what are some of the greatest accomplishments? As you look back, right, and the journey has a lot of ebbs and flows, and right, you arrive here. As you look back, what are some of the greatest accomplishments that you've kind of experienced and really hold with high regard in your business and your career?
We've got a lot of people into houses, over the years. I mean, together for 8 years, we were getting people into houses and they had $0 in the bank. Sometimes they were negative and we had to have them make a deposit.
Oh yeah.
But they were buying houses with $0, and they were upgrading their families' livelihoods in ways that now, 10 years later, they have amassed wealth that will be generational. And not to get all sappy or make it sound like more honorable than it really is, but that's a big deal. I think there are lots of people that we've changed their lives because we worked really hard to get them into, shoehorn them into the weird down payment assistance program that is really hard to qualify for. We worked a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that we poured into getting people into difficult loans. Yeah. And they've done well for it. Yeah. So I think that's great. Personally, my favorite, if you can find a way to have fun in this industry.
Yep. That's why we're drinking on a podcast, by the way.
Yeah. What kind of whiskey was this again?
It's a Basil Hayden Dark Rye.
Yeah. This is the one that I gave you a long time ago,
Christmas gift a few years back.
Cheers.
Thanks.
This industry, has a way to it kind of sucks the fun out of itself when you're really trying hard to get someone into the right loan. It's a very, very high stakes, high pressure, high stress for everybody involved. Yeah. So if you can find a way to have fun, this is great. Like a podcast, sitting here with an old buddy and talking about this is fun. And I think over the years, one of my greatest accomplishments, to bring it back to your original question, was being able to have some fun. Yeah. We had a pretty cool group of people that we were able to put together. We did a lot of fun activities. We had a lot of fun in the office, and we were able to keep it light most of the time and, work hard, play hard, the whole thing. Sure. And that's hard to do. Most mortgage companies, most mortgage teams, those environments are pretty stale, high stress. People don't enjoy them. And I think we had a lot of fun.
You set a great tone with that always. Yeah.
I don't know. I tried to, and that it was hard to do, but to me, it was necessary. It was that was the most interesting way to really do this business, is to try to make it fun.
Right? People come and go, right, through LOs or staff, and everybody's in office, and then COVID happens, and then no one's in office, right? Lots of ebbs and flows. And what would you say is some of the most challenging pieces of growing and maintaining that, and then just persisting like you have and succeeding in this business?
It's personnel and personalities, I would say, is the most challenging thing. I mean, everybody has their own way about doing the business and doing life in general. And so there, when you get a bunch of people in the same room doing the same, working on high stress type thing, there's always conflict and, trying to keep everybody's spirits up and conflicts low. I mean, we could go on, and I'm thinking of 3 right now that over the years that have been just
We're probably thinking about some of the same names.
Oh yeah. Just things where it's the drama, I don't know, but I think I think that was the key. That was trying to keep the drama to a minimum and navigate those things.
Well, it's a people business, but not just your clients, right? You have your clients, right, which is a certain type of personality and stress. You have their agents who have already spent the commission check. Right.
We're going there?
Sometimes.
All right.
Right. And then you've got, right, not all, some. And then you've got LOs, and you've got staff, and you've got underwriters, and you've got corporate, and you've got bosses, and you've got, right, a team that follows you. it's a lot of people with a lot of different hats, with a lot of different motivations, with a lot of different stress that they infuse into the cauldron, right? And you mix it all up, and it's like, how do you have fun in the midst of all of that, right? How do you kind of set the temperature as opposed to letting the agent or the disgruntled staff member or right the buyer who doesn't want to do anything but wants all the results, right? Hasn't answered an email for 3 weeks and then calls you and goes, right?
Well, and what everybody, this is the secret no one actually knows. As lenders, we don't actually do anything. All we do is facilitate the efforts of probably a dozen different entities. So it's borrowers, it's buyer agent, it's listing agent, it's underwriting, it's processing, it's order outs, it's insurance, it's appraisals, it's title.
Yeah.
We are literally just trying to facilitate 10 different or 12 different entities to make this all come together for the borrower. But the whole time the borrower is just calling us, going, where are we at? What's going on?
Right.
So
yeah,
that's part of the chaos, is that we don't actually get to control any of it.
Correct. Yeah. Well, it's part of where, you have a chance to make it fun too, right? So like you get to set the tone and the mood and hopefully make it, to your original point, right? Building the right process with the right personalities helps mitigate a lot of where the thing can become really stressful, because you put the right people in the right place to succeed, and that'll translate into higher service levels. Yeah.
And the right people. I mean, I don't know if I can hijack this for just a second, but like, you came on board, and in my opinion, you were the right person at the right time. We grew something really, really great afterward.
Amen.
And what was your take? What was your from coming on as like you literally came on, started from the bottom. When I say start from the bottom, I just mean like you were doing order outs, you were doing, getting insurance.
Dude, we had paper files when I started.
And it was, you jumped in, there was no ego. It was just flat out like, hey, whatever I got to do to earn my keep, let's figure this out. But like, what was your take? I mean, what was your perspective on that? We rode the same roller coaster together for 8 years.
It was a lot of fun. It was always fun. It was always like people-centered. We had a really good team, to your point, and we had a really good office culture, I think, even before we kind of stepped out and took that and led that piece. It was, we always found ourselves surrounded by some really good human beings to be around. And that helps a ton. But for me, it was this idea of like, the harder you work, the more you can make, the more you can impact, like things actually matter. Everything's a puzzle that can be solved, right? And so, I started with, paper files and like, there's 1,000 documents in this thing and page 600 has to get changed, right? So it's like, unclip it, put the next one in. I can't imagine how much our paper bill was in that branch, like back in 2014, right? And like today, it's like a completely zero cost, right? Like you don't print anything almost.
Yeah, we definitely were not paperless at the time. Like that's a newer thing.
It was insane, right? It was like people were like resisting the change to paperless. That's where we started this thing.
I still print stuff every day, but just so I can read it, because I don't want to read it on the screen. I guess old habits die hard, but yes, technically we're paperless.
Yeah, so, it's just a different world, right? But I'll tell you, one of the biggest things, back to the people, was having, the right combination of sales leadership and ops leadership in-house. I remember, I could come to you with anything, right, from a qualification standpoint, but then in the process, I could walk down the hall and sit in underwriters' offices that were more than willing to be a great wealth of knowledge and learn a lot without creating too many ripple effects that were damaging to anybody, right? So it's hard, right? Learning is messy. You never really arrive in that journey. But having the right people around you makes a ton of difference and makes it a lot of fun, right? Because you start to put pieces of the puzzle together and you see it more clearly. And the things that you're like, right? Like you're watching the aha moments happen, right? In me and in our team. And that was really cool. I remember one day, I still didn't feel like I really knew what I was doing. We had a bunch of leads to call. And you're like, dude, I got to knock out 6 hours of door shut, do not call me in here, do not ask me anything work. Right, just one of those days, right? Getting the pipeline pushed through, getting agent stuff done, getting marketing stuff done to keep the pipeline filled. And you're like, go get them. And I remember working through that entire database that day and giving you an update at the end of the day. And you're like, I'm going to do that more often. Right. And that was like, it was like the great, like confidence booster and like evidence of like, I can do this, that like really started me opening up and being able to like really drive and push and begin to deliver without needing hand holding. Right. Yeah. You know, and there's a really great learning environment. And
well, it's so rare to have somebody that handles it that way. Most of the time, if you were to say, here's a stack of leads, go get to it.
Yeah.
If you don't know the answer, just tell them you'll get back to them. Yeah. Usually it's deer in the headlights. It's like, I can't, I don't even know how to wrap my head around that, right. You know, and you never struggled with that. You know, that was the beauty of I think our relationship and how we work together is that every now and then I'd throw you to the wolves. Yeah. Let's be real. Most of the time I'd throw you to the wolves, and you always.
It's my greatest learning.
You came back with some scratches and a little bit of blood, but you always survived and learned a lot fast. Yeah. You learned fast.
Yeah. Well, and then we get to grow, right? Because you get to serve more people. Now we're doubling efforts and and then the growth side of business is super fun because you get to go invite other people, right? You're not just changing lives of buyers at that point. Now you're adding, right? And we're going from, 2 or 3 of us to 6 and 8 and a branch, and LOs coming in, that are running parallel to us in a degree as well, not just working on our business. So that's just a lot of great relationships that come from the capacity that created. Yeah. Which was, it was a good time. Fun. What a blast. A lot of names flowing through my head. I'm not going to say right now, but just, right? Like a lot of guys and gals that came through and the stories that come with them. Right. And so, what does, right? Like just acknowledging, right, that the arrival fallacy is real. Like what does like end game success look like? Like what's the thing we're striving for, or the thing that you feel like you're really excited to go accomplish in business?
It's hard to say, to be honest. I think for the most part, financial independence for me, I think is the main thing. That's what we all work to make money, right? And I think in this particular industry, you mentioned it, you're like, harder you work, the more money you can make. Yep. And the last couple of years has been a little bit of a different, it's been a little bit of a downshift.
You can work as hard as you want and still not make money.
But you want to just make sure you're not spinning wheels and burning rubber the whole time going nowhere. Yeah. But in general, though, the harder you work. So that's the great thing about this industry is that it allows you the opportunity to really, if you want to knuckle down and really work hard, you can fulfill your wildest financial dreams, which is fun. For me, I don't see myself doing much. This is a job that you can do until you are an old man.
Yes.
I don't, and I enjoy it. Truth be told, it stresses me out. But I also enjoy it. Like maybe I'm glutton for punishment or whatever, but I don't anticipate doing anything different. I used to, 10 years ago, I was trying to retire at 50 so I could be done and I could go do nothing. Yeah. And then I don't know that sounds all that entertaining anymore. Like doing nothing, I really think, although that sounds fun in theory, that doesn't sound, I don't think I'd be content. I don't think that would be fun. And this is an industry that keeps your brain moving. It keeps you engaged. It's puzzles, like you said, like you're doing, people talk about Sudoku or whatever happened, or you just fit your daily puzzle. I forget the one that everyone's doing today. Wordle?
Are we still on Wordle?
So like these are the things, people do these so they can keep their brain engaged. 100%. I mean, you want to keep your brain engaged, write alone once a month. Yeah. I mean, let alone 10 or 15. I mean, it's a good workout. So I don't know. That's
I kind of agree with that, right? And I mean, and we're both still have young families, so like that helps extend the runway a little
bit. Correct. 2 new babies. My gosh. We got a 1.5-year-old and then now another one on the way. You got 5. Yeah. And having a new baby, all of a sudden you're like, well, maybe that 50-year-old retirement thing isn't going to happen. But honestly, I don't think I'd want to anyway. I just feel like I keep plugging away with what I'm doing now. Yeah. What I have learned is that like finding and identifying your goal within the industry, at least in mortgage, it's a moving target because the industry is always moving. Correct. So saying like, hey, I want to be a loan officer and then I want to be a branch manager and then I want to be a regional and then I want to be part owner. Yeah. And then like that path is possible. That is the trajectory if that's what you choose to do. But the industry shifts so often, you might find yourself in a situation where you're a regional And then a year later, it's like I'm writing loans again because
I want to.
I need to, or I want to, or it's just kind of what.
Yeah.
So I just try to roll with the punches. I feel like this is the only thing I've ever done, aside from the couple of years at the beginning of new home sales right out of college.
Yeah.
It's the only thing I've ever done. I can't imagine starting over at this point. And I think for me, I'm just gonna grind into the sunset. And
Yeah. Well, and you have the flexibility of how much you're driving, right? Based on
Correct.
market conditions, financial constraints.
Correct.
Right? Like you can go after 10 loans a month, and you can go, like bills are paid with 2, right? And like you can live in that flexibility, which allows you, right, get away with the family, spend time at home, have flexibility to be at things as the kids get older. All of that, like for me, the money is really, right? There's few jobs that I've ever run into that have the amount of time flexibility and the amount of
it's both
financial opportunity that you can find your sweet spot. And again, it moves, but you can find that on a regular basis.
Yeah. Typically, it's one or the other.
Yeah.
You know, it's you're either chained to your desk 90 hours a week, but you make great money,
right?
Or, you know, you're not making any money and you've got all the flexibility and freedom in the world. And you're right. This, along with real estate, I think is another one. Like this industry in general, it is both.
Yeah, for sure. So, well, man, I really appreciate like just kind of sharing, opening up. What other, right? Like words of wisdom, like people watching that are like maybe getting into or have a little experience in the mortgage business. Like what's the,
other than if you can do anything else?
Other than you made a horrible mistake. What
once
else?
You're in, you never, number one, once you're in, you never get out.
It's true. It's
and
true.
if you do get out, it's only because you had this harebrained idea that it's not going to work out, and then you're going to get back in anyway.
Yeah.
It's just kind of
very valid. Yeah.
I've had a few people that I've known over the years that have like gotten out to go do something else. Our buddy Creighton actually got out.
I was thinking of Creighton.
And maybe we shouldn't say Creighton, but
it's all right.
He's happy. I think last time I talked to him, he's happy. He got out, and he's happy. But I lost my train of thought.
No, but like, so what would be like words of wisdom, like getting in? Like, is it as simple as like have fun, love what you're doing? Like, is there? This
is wisdom for people that are entertaining this industry as a career. Yeah. I mean, I would say this: you don't have to be wired a certain way to succeed in this particular industry. You really don't. You can be any type of personality or a combination of 10 personalities. You can be on the spectrum or off the spectrum. You can be anything. You can be outgoing. You can be introverted. It doesn't matter. You can carve out a very successful career in originating loans, no matter how you're wired.
Yeah.
So it's not like most sales jobs where only the real talkative, networky types succeed. I mean, you can be a desk jockey and carve out a beautiful niche So that would be a word of encouragement, I would say, to people considering the industry. Like, you really can do this well and make a good living no matter how you're wired.
Yeah. And obviously, like, certain platforms are going to lend themselves to certain personalities, right? Like, just in the way that, but there is enough diversity in the industry as far as, right, banking and brokered and how they're run and how they're structured, right? Like, you can go start your own. You can go be a W-2 employee at a broker shop, right? Like, and there's everything in between. So,
and when you can build around it too. So if you happen to be the talkative, networky, like people person, and you want the support, you know, once you grow, you can find the support at the office that can help you handle the deals that are coming in the door, or vice versa. You can be not want to talk to anybody, but you're like a lone guru, and you're some sort of like encompass wizard, and you can go find somebody that'll run around and go shake the bushes.
I actually remember thinking that, like, when we were growing, you know, a handful of years ago, and it was like, right, we're filling the funnel and we need to make sure like the systems and structures and bodies are there to be able to provide the level of service that our clients and agents expect, right? And it's like, there was a moment where I was like, what if I could get like a bunch of people to fill the funnel and I could just be like the guy in here just cranking loans, right? Like we were doing. And it was like a great energy there. But to your point, like, you can do either. You can be successful at both. I think, unfortunately, and this is going to be on social media, so it's not like an anti-social media thing, but you can watch people look and perform and be a certain way and then assume like that's what it takes to be
right.
And that's oftentimes not the picture of success, right? The picture of success is more the guy you're talking about. It's like whether you're extroverted, introverted, right? High sales skill, high attention to detail, whatever it is that like you bring to the table, knowing your gifts and knowing your strengths and then finding a role that applies and maximizes your earning potential is really like I think pretty cool part about this job is, right? And there's not one defined career track, like a lot of industries where it's like, this is what we do, right? It's like,
yeah, the career track thing's right. I mean, there's a variety of ways to climb the ladder too. Like there's a variety of ways to grow. Yeah, there are many ladders, many ways to grow.
Yep.
You can grow it's typically like a sales or operations groove.
Yeah.
But within those two different grooves, there's a million different ways to get there.
Yep.
And those are usually going to be chosen based on what's best suited for your personality, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That's good. That's really good. So, I want to tell some stories. I'm gonna go first because this is literally the story that made me dream up the podcast. So I'm gonna tell it. You were there. Okay. We were in this one together, and then any others that kind of popped to your head. But it must have been. I had 3 kids. I didn't have the boys yet, so it must have been like 2017, somewhere in there. We had a buyer, right, and didn't qualify for down payment assistance, FHA based on credit and assets available. Didn't really have, right, like one of those shoehorn ones we're talking about, right? You know, mom refis the joint car into her name, you know, gives a gift. Mom and dad give a gift. Like this lady's got 3 kids at the time, single mom and dad trying to help out. And mom and dad go through all of this sacrifice, right? Like mom's adding things to her credit, dad's giving a gift. Well, back then, right, today all the rules are if you give the gift directly to title, no docs, right? So they give the gift to her thinking that that's helpful, right? So she's got the money sitting in her bank account from mom and dad, getting ready to close. We've got all the updated credit, the updated underwriting approval. Everything's like coming, like final check boxes. Like we're finally here. And I call her, you know, hey, just wanted to let you know you're clear to close. Congratulations. We've met all the underwriting conditions. The money for title is going to be about this number, but title will be in touch with the exact wire instructions and dollar amount to the penny. Long pause. Did you hear me? Yeah. You know this one, right? You know this is ending.
I remember I know where you're going. I forgot about this.
Oh, long pause. And she's like, so, the money, and we're talking, you know, 15 to 20
So you're
grand.
telling her how much money she needs to
it's
close.
like 15 to 20 grand, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the standard 3.5% plus closing costs on a house back then. And she is super quiet, and she's like, the money's gone. And so, what do you mean the money's gone? Like your parents put it in the bank like a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I met a guy online, knew I was buying a house, wanted to send me a care package. He's over in Africa. Sent me a care package.
Is it Prince?
Dude, not a prince, not a prince. She wouldn't have fallen for that one. But the like $15,000 worth of stuff, including a pile of cash that he sent, got held up at customs, so he needed me to wire $10,000 of the money to get it through customs. And I was like,
I forgot about this deal.
You gotta be kidding me. And she's like, so I sent the money. I was like, did you get the package? No.
That deal died, right?
Deal died.
Nothing happened.
Deal died. Mom called me sobbing.
Oh my gosh. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Mom met my kids at the house for like one of the times that we met with the family face to face. She goes, don't ever tell your kids how much money you have. I was like, oh, it's like gut wrenching. Like that's the other side, right? There's so many great stories.
Yeah.
But that's the wildest. Like I thought about that. I was like, this is one of those stories that like, unless you're living it, right? And this thing, high stress, drug out, high stress agent, if you remember, right? Like it is
One of my favorites.
She hasn't changed, right? So here we are, and it's like last minute, everyone did all this work. People sacrificed, extended, negotiated, right? Everyone. And it's like, I sent my money to the guy to get my package from customs. No house. Done. So hopefully you have some stories that aren't as depressing of an ending, but like equally like just like you wouldn't believe this water cooler story, right? Like the thing that like, so anyways.
Well, and that sort of stuff happens all the time, like on smaller scales where somebody will miss a car payment, a week before that they're trying to close or the wire fraud thing is a big deal. That's not wire fraud. That's just stupid.
That's just fraud. But like fraud that she fell for.
Real wire fraud where people accidentally wire their money because they got some sort of a solicitation for the wire and they accidentally wire it to the wrong.
Been communicating that for a couple of years.
And it's gone. Yeah, you would think awful. There's like checks and balances or insurance for these sort of things, but it's just gone.
Nothing.
80 grand, 180 grand. I mean,
just missing.
I got one that comes to mind that's pretty funny, I think, and I'll try to remember all the points because these stories get so crazy and there's so many different moving parts.
Yeah.
So I'll try to tell it well. But this one just happened recently. It was a old guy's buying a house. He's been renting his entire life. He's probably 80.
No kidding.
He's on fixed income, Social Security, so he doesn't really qualify on his own. He's got a daughter who's a beautiful person that is going to co-sign for him. Yeah. Daughter's like, I'd love to help my dad buy a house.
How great.
Perfect situation. Awesome. So they go out. I pre-approve them. They go out. They find a house. We get into escrow. We're 1 or 2 or 3 weeks in. And all of a sudden, I remember where I was. It was Sunday afternoon, and I get a call from the daughter who's co-signing.
Yeah.
And she says, Ben, I can't go through with this. I'm not going to co-sign. I was like, well, what's going on? What happened? She's like, my dad has a huge gambling problem. And I'm like, oh man, I'm sorry. That's terrible. What? And she's like, but it's not the gambling this time. He actually got, some woman is talking to him online and she's telling him, he thinks that it's like a porn star. And she's telling him, this person online is telling him that she's this porn star and that she wants to date him and be with him. And he's 80 and single, and so he thinks this is a really great idea. But I don't want, I'm giving him money. Like not only was she co-signing, but she was throwing in 10 grand of her own money to buy this house. But meanwhile, he is literally sending this porn star money.
You're kidding.
So she's giving him money to buy the house, and he's sending this woman 200 here, 300 here, 1,000 here, whatever. And he's been talking to this woman online for a couple months, I guess. And she just finds out about it. And she's like, I can't. My dad thinks he's sending money to a porn star who he thinks he's buying this house so he can live with this porn star.
This is why we do client meetings in person.
Yeah. So then I step back, go back inside. I'm like, hey kids, how you doing? Wouldn't believe the phone call I just had. But anyway, so I'm talking to her and I'm like, okay, well, clearly we can't go forward with this. But then what do I do as a lender? I call the agent and tell him, hey, the deal's off.
Co-signers out.
We're not going to lend. We don't really get to decide that.
Well, right. Like you're actually not allowed to just pick and choose.
I can't just decide I don't want to lend because I don't
laws
like this
against
scenario.
saying no.
So meanwhile, Mr. Borrower's like, I can send my money to whoever I want. She's beautiful. And I'm like, okay. So then I told the daughter, I said, listen, I am on your side and I understand what you're saying and you're going to receive zero pressure from me. But why don't you sleep on this for a night and call me. This was a Sunday. I said, call me Monday, call me tomorrow. And she called me back Monday afternoon and she was like, okay, we're going to go forward. And I was like, are you sure? And she said, yep. I talked to him. We got it straightened out. We're going to move forward. And I said, okay.
Did you get any details about what straightening it out looks like?
Nope. Didn't ask any questions. I was like, okay. And we closed and he got his house. And hopefully he figured out that the dude he was talking to in Russia was not his porn star bride. It never ends.
There's all sorts of crazy things, right? Like I've been at signings where there's guns on the counter, right? Like just stuff where it's like, this is insanity. So yeah, you wouldn't believe it if you didn't do it. Like if you didn't live it, you're like, no, somebody didn't do that, right?
it's
just kind of crazy.
Now that I'm bringing that up, like that story,
there-
now
what-
there's
what-
like other
what- yeah,
stories
here,
that
let's
are
go.
cranking, but no, it's, well, I'll mention this one and we can cut it later if it doesn't make any sense. But so do you remember the credit repair situation that happened where the loan officer at the branch had charged the buyer?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so in our industry,
That was not allowed.
yeah, I mean, credit in the mortgage industry, if you have bad credit, a lot of times your loan officer is going to want to help you because that means if you can fix their credit or help them fix their credit, then you get a deal out of it.
Right.
You can help them buy the house.
Yep.
So a lot of times we're in positions where as a loan officer, we're trying to advise on credit and we're trying to give people, you know, the tools that they need to fix their own credit so that they can buy the house. And this particular loan officer, so the one thing that you're not allowed to do is charge the buyer for credit repair.
Yeah.
Because it falls under this whole different bracket of like a credit repair service and you need special licensing and different things like that. So this particular borrower was advised by a loan officer that they needed to do some credit repair, that it would cost them $800 or $900, I think, by the time the rapid rescore was, it was like an $800 or $900 rapid rescore.
Holy cow.
Rapid rescore is
That's a lot of bureaus.
It's every bureau for 6 different trade lines. I mean, and basically what that does is it updates their credit super, super fast so we can get the loan
It's
closed.
like a push instead of a pull.
Yeah.
Type of a thing. Yeah.
And technically, the loan officer is supposed to pay for that. If you're going to do it, like that's something that you're supposed to pay for because you're not supposed to advise on those sorts. Well, anyway, this loan officer told the client that he wouldn't. And so where the loan officer is supposed to type in his credit card information to pay for the rapid rescore,
Put the client.
he told the client, hey, I need your credit card and I'm going to type it in there and charge the client. Well, the problem that happened, they didn't get their loan. I don't know if you remember this,
Yeah,
but like
I do.
they didn't get their loan because it didn't work.
But we didn't find out until that guy was already gone.
No, the loan officer told them what to do, spent their $800 getting the fix done, and then the fix didn't work, so they couldn't get their loan. And they came in, and I'm Joe Branch manager trying to like give him, you know, and this guy comes in and he is hot, he is red, beet red, and he's grinding his teeth as he's talking to me because he's so mad at this loan officer. And so he tells me all this stuff, and he tells me that he paid for the credit repair, and I'm like, well, you're supposed to pay for credit repair anyway. Right. And I shouldn't have said that in that moment because then that just took everything to the next level.
You just turned it up.
And this dude, like you could hear a pin drop in the office. I remember, I don't know, at the time, I think we had 15 or 20 people in the office. It was like we had underwriting and processing and everything. And this guy was just in the closed door office, just stomping around talking to me, and I'm trying to keep him calm. And he lost his house, which is bad enough. And then he finds out what this loan officer advised him of and did, you know, was actually illegal. And then I had to go fire the loan officer.
Yeah.
And that was, anyway.
What a mess. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, that's how like the bad rap happens, right? Like,
right.
You know, and then that guy tells one story and now all loan officers are bad. And it's like, well, no, just a few of them are bad, right? They're not all crooked, just some.
And honestly, this guy, I don't think he had the $800 to spend the money himself.
No.
And I think he meant well. I think he really was like trying to help them out, trying to get the deal done, but knew that it was going to cost him $800 to do it. I think he gave bad advice. I think most people are well-intentioned.
Yeah.
But he messed up.
Right. But in that office, right, we've got 20, 25 loan officers. We've got this one guy, right? Yeah. Like that we inherited.
It was always that one guy.
We inherited, but right? Like it's like, oh my gosh, like all the headaches come from like a select few.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy times, man. Crazy times. So, well, hey, I really appreciate you being my first guest. We'll have to do it again.
I'm excited for you. This has been an honor to be asked to be your
Yeah.
first guest. We've had a lot of fun together over the years.
Yeah.
Maybe someday we'll have some more fun together again. Who knows? But this is fun. This is really cool.
Never say never in this industry. It's real small, right?
It's a very small industry. That's true.
So
no, this is great. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. I appreciate it. All this started because you took a shot. So cheers. Appreciate it, bro.
It was a no-brainer of a shot. So.
Thanks, man. Good times.
Congrats.
Thank you.